Well, I've been wanting to write settings of the poems of Kathleen Raine for many years, and actually someone said to me, it must be about 40 years ago, you ought to set Kathleen Raine's poetry, you'd like it. And I thought, oh yes, I'll remember that name. And I remembered that name for years, and then I accidentally found a little book of recent poems of hers in Abby's bookshop, and I thought, oh, there's Kathleen Raine, because I hadn't, in those days, I didn't have access to a computer, so I didn't try terribly hard to find out much about her. But then there was this little book called The Oracle in the Heart, and I thought that's an interesting title, and it was short poems, fairly recent ones, and I got that, and then from there on I wanted to get all the Kathleen Raine, and so now I have several volumes, because she also wrote an autobiography, and I read that, and that only covered the earlier part of her life, and it's beautifully written, and she had quite a difficult time in the earlier part of her life, and a couple of failed marriages, and then at the end of her life she wrote another book because she had become very interested, very drawn to India. And she went to India at the age of 73, I think it was. And when she told me that, I thought, oh, that's old to be going on a long trip. Well, now I think it's quite young. But anyway, she went to India at the age of about 73 and was well looked after and taken around and introduced to people. It was all very well organised. And she had a marvellous time. And she wrote a book, an autobiographical book about her Indian adventure. And those are her two main books of prose, but the poems, she is basically a poet. And her use of words is always so inventive. She can take an ordinary word and make it sound interesting, and put an ordinary word with another ordinary word, and you think, oh, that's interesting. She's got a wonderful way with words, and so she appeals to me for all those reasons as a poet. I wanted a poem that I wasn't aware of anyone else having set, and one that, of course, that I hadn't set before. And I wanted to have a poem rather than several poems.
What is different when it comes to writing for the voice?
Well, for me, it's the use of words. Lots of people don't use words or for vocal writing, or make up vowels and do all sorts of interesting things with the singing voice and the speaking voice. I've had a little bit of a go at that myself years and years ago, using spoken word, but primarily it's the potential of words to be sung by a person, not just a voice, but a person. And fortunately, I've been approached by singers to write songs for them. And in the process of writing songs for a person, you know more about them and certainly more about their voice. And I found that very rewarding indeed.